Hello everyone, I'm Chase at Rocky Mountain ATVMC, and this is my first impression and ride review of the 2019 KX450. All right, so I'm sure a lot of you out there know that for 2019, Kawasaki has an all-new KX450 this year. And I know a lot of companies will say that they have a new bike that's all new from the ground up. And literally this bike is all new from the ground up. You got a new swing arm, a new frame, the motor is all new, you've got new suspension on here. And if you take the old bike, the 18 KX450, KX450F, and you take a lot of the parts, they don't even bolt onto this bike. So it really is all new. So we're out here riding today. This is my second day on the bike. Got 2 days of riding. We just want to give you some feedback, how I felt about the bike ergonomically, how the motor is, and also just how the suspension feels to hopefully give you guys, some good info whether or not this is going to be your next bike. Ergonomically, the bike feels really good. So I do like it. It does feel skinny. They narrowed it up in the front, so I like the feel of the bike. The bike feels really light. That's a characteristic that I really noticed. In the turns, in and out of the track, it's easy to change directions. When you come into a corner, the bike's easy to lay over. So ergonomically, and as far as the weight of the bike, it feels really good. And this is the lightest Japanese bike in the class. Even though it did gain a couple pounds going to spring forks, they were able to actually shave off some weight in other areas of the bike as well. So ergonomically, it feels good. I also really like the handlebars that you have different positions for the mounts. So if you look at the triple clamps, they've actually got 2 mounting positions. And what I really like about that is that for me being a shorter rider, if you're a shorter rider, I think you're gonna like this. Having the bars be able to be a little bit farther back makes it easier for me to be up over the handlebars. So when you're coming into a turn, if you're standing up on the bike and you're really getting on the gas and you wanna make sure your chest is forward, just having those different mounting positions just makes it nice because you can really, fine tune the bike and make the cockpit feel really comfortable. As far as the seat height and everything, I don't know if it is or if it just feels this way, but compared to the RMZ and some other the newer bikes that I've ridden, I just feel like I have more room on this bike. I feel like when I'm standing up, I have more room between my butt and the seat, so I don't feel like I'm getting kicked as much. So ergonomically, I really like the way the bike feels in the rider cockpit. If we talk about engine, okay, like I mentioned, all new engine this year from the bottom all the way up to the top end, and Kawasaki want to have more hit at the bottom, but also want to have more over rev. So normally when you're building a new motor, those two things are really hard to get at the same time. You're either going for bottom end or you're going for top end, but they were able to accomplish both. I rode the 2018 KX450F before I came out here just to get an idea of the differences between the motor. This one does hit a little bit harder at the bottom, and I think it revs longer, and it's a really lively, really free-feeling motor or engine. So what I mean by that is when you're on the gas hard and getting towards the top of that RPM range, the motor doesn't feel like it's binding up. And then when you let off the gas, you don't get that real hard or that real harsh decel, like that braking or the engine braking that you'd feel sometimes. So overall, the motor just feels really alive, and that's what also helps keep the bike feeling lightweight. So they did a really good job with the motor. I'm not gonna say it's the strongest motor in the 450 class. I'd have to ride it back to all the other motors, but I definitely know that if you buy this bike, you're not gonna wish you had more power. It's got plenty of power everywhere in the power curve. What's cool about the motor is you have 3 different couplers. You've got green, black, and white. So it comes standard with green, and then the black is a softer hitting, and then the white is gonna be your more aggressive mapping. So what's cool about these is they just plug right in behind the right shroud. They're super easy to change. Honestly, it just takes like a couple seconds. You can do it while the bike is running if you want. And each coupler, what it does, it actually just remaps the ECU for different power delivery. And I know a lot of guys have done reviews down at sea level, and they say that they didn't like the white because it had too much grunt at the bottom, so it kind of unsettled the bike in turns. But up here at elevation, we're at 4,500 feet. So today at this track at OCA, in the morning time, it was real soft and real loamy, so you had some deeper dirt. So I actually liked the white coupler. But as the day went on, the track started to harden up a little bit. We started to get a little bit more of a hard base to some of the ruts. So what's cool is I said, you know what? Now it is a little bit too aggressive, so I popped the black coupler in, and that kind of settled it down a little bit. It detuned at the bottom just a tad, and it was just enough to make me feel more comfortable coming into those turns and accelerating out. So I really like the engine characteristic, and I like that you have those couplers. So when you get this bike, don't just leave it how it is. Try the different couplers because there is a difference, and find which one that's going to make it easiest for you to ride the bike. Suspension. So that's probably One of the bigger things talked about this year is Kawasaki went to a 49mm Showa A-Kit spring fork, which is a big deal. We're seeing a lot of manufacturers going back to spring forks, and for good reason. In my opinion, spring forks are just the best there is. There are some air forks that work decent, but I know that with the air fork that the previous models had, people just weren't really that happy with them. You can get them to work all right, but at the end of the day, spring fork is much better. And what's cool is that they're using the A-Kit components, which is, from what I understand, is a lot of the components that they actually use in their factory bikes. So really good components here. And then with the shock, as far as how the whole bike felt, so I rode it in complete stock form. I put the clickers right to where the manual will tell you to, and I rode. And at first, I rode this on 2 tracks. I rode a track that was really hard packed, fast, lots of jumps. And then we came out here to Ogden, where this is soft and loamy, deeper ruts. Front, a little bit soft, not too soft, but what I felt was coming into some of the turns, it absorbs small chop and that, those braking bumps really well. I like that. What I felt just a little bit is that if I was coming in down a straightaway going real fast and then I had to brake hard to set up for a sharp turn, I felt like the fork was diving just a little bit. In other words, it was a little bit low in the stroke, so I actually just went 2 clicks stiffer, and that gave me a little bit more hold up, but I still feel like it still absorbs that small choppy stuff really good. As far as the shock goes, okay, with the shock, again, it felt a little bit soft for me. I'm about 175 pounds, or about 185 pounds, excuse me, all geared up. So for you bigger guys, probably gonna need to go to a stiffer spring. But what I felt with this is that a little bit soft. And with the shock, if you actually listen to Chris Kiefer, who talked about it, he mentioned that the shock isn't as sensitive as the fork is with clicks, and he was absolutely right. In fact, I went 8 clicks stiffer, and then I still felt like it was a little bit soft where if I hit some of the bigger jumps and if I didn't land just on the downside and I maybe cased a little bit, I'd get really one big harsh kick out of the back end. So I actually stiffened it up, and then I went 2 clicks stiffer or slower on the rebound as well. So I went 10 clicks in total and 2 clicks slower on rebound, and that seemed to give me more hold up or more damping. So I didn't get that big kick if I did case a jump, but it still absorbed, it still felt really planted to the ground, and it didn't feel like it was too stiff and kicking me. So if you're getting this bike and you want kind of a base setting, that's what I've done. Sags at 105 millimeters. I also did raise the forks about 2.5 millimeters in the clamps, and that gave me a really good balance for the bike. So I really like the suspension. Stock, this is probably one of the best bikes that I've ever ridden with suspension. So they did a really good job. Now, some of the other things that are new for the 2019 KX450 is electric start, which, this is my first bike with electric start, so I love it. It's really nice. I stalled the bike a couple times out on the track. It's really nice. I don't have to reach for the kickstarter, just press the electric start. Now, electric start's not a deal breaker for me. If I have a bike that has a kickstart, I'm not gonna freak out all that much. But yes, it is nice to have the electric start on there. Another big update, hydraulic clutch. So this is the first Japanese bike that we're seeing that is coming standard with a hydraulic clutch. And what's cool is they didn't just take a Magura or say a Brembo hydraulic clutch and slap it on here that they already use on other bikes. Instead, Kawi's got their own Nissan hydraulic clutch. And a lot of people, probably one of the most common questions that I'm getting right now is how does that feel? How does it feel to a cable clutch? Here's my thoughts. It doesn't feel exactly like a cable clutch. It does feel a little bit different. I know a lot of guys talk about hydraulic clutches, how it's just on or off and it's hard to modulate it and really feather it in a turn. This one, you can do that. But it does take a little bit of getting used to find that sweet spot. It's not as, you don't have as much feel, I would say, as a cable clutch, but it's pretty dang close. But honestly, for me, having a hydraulic clutch, the 2 biggest benefits is 1, the pull is much easier than some of your cable clutches out there. So I like to use 1 finger, but on some clutches, when I'm riding a lot, I gotta go to 2 fingers because my finger gets tired. With this, I can do 1 finger on the clutch all day long. My finger doesn't get tired. So I really like the feel, and I do like that it does have a little bit of squish or play, so it's not just real stiff right at the start of the pull. And also, it's really nice. The other benefit I like is you don't have to adjust anything. You can ride the entire day. It's self-adjusting, so you're not taking out tension or adding tension to your clutch cable. So it just makes it easy to ride. So if you have your doubts about the clutch being on-off, I think they did a really good job with this one. And so overall, they did a great job with the bike. It feels good. Like I said, suspension for me was a little bit soft, so I had to really find the balance of the bike, but once you find that balance and you get it to where it feels comfortable, you find your handlebar position, you get the forks and the shock how you like it. The bike, the motor is really good. You got an oversized rotor up in the front. Brakes are really sensitive. Something I would point out is they are pretty touchy, so that takes a little bit getting used to. Now with the back brake, what's cool about this also is that they have the largest rear rotor in class now. And so with the rear brake, it's pretty touchy, but what I like about it is that once you kind of get the feel of it, with other brakes that I've had in the past, sometimes I'd ask myself, okay, is my rear brake dragging right now or is it locked up? It's kind of hard to have that sensation, that feeling with the rear brake. So with this brake, once I kind of figured it out, I like that I feel like I'm actually, kind of with the front brake, I can feel how much pressure is on it. So if I want to drag it, I can drag it. If I want to lock it up and steer the rear end with it, I can lock it up. So I feel like it had good feel. So having that larger rotor doesn't make it so touchy to where it just locks up the second you put your foot on the brake. So overall, brakes on this thing are awesome. They did a good job. And that is it, man. That's the KX450 for 2019 from Kawasaki. Honestly, I really don't have anything I could really nitpick. The bar bend is not my favorite. They are 7/8 bars, so that's something that I would change out. And then the grips on here, they're good grips. I actually like that they took away a little piece on the throttle side for your thumb to give some thumb relief, but I'm pretty picky about grips, so I actually did put just some different grips on here after the first day. But other than that, not a whole lot that I would change. Like I said, if you're a bigger guy, probably want to go stiffer springs and stiffer spring in the shock. But other than that, you guys are gonna really like this bike if you're considering it. So make sure stay tuned because we're gonna do later on a build on this bike. I'm gonna go through, we'll put a lot of great parts and accessories to make the bike even better. We'll give you some updates on the bike, things that work to help you guys get the most out of these bikes. And everything that you're gonna need for these, go to RockyMountainATVMC.com, enter the make, the model, and the year of your bike. As you scroll down for this bike or any other bike that you have, you're gonna see all the machine-specific parts that we carry. And we got a lot. All your OEM parts and aftermarket parts, we're gonna have them at Rocky Mountain. If you guys like this video, make sure to subscribe and stay up to date because, like I said, we're gonna be coming out with that bike build, so do not miss it. I'm Chase at Rocky Mountain. Thanks for watching.